From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello and welcome to the 12 o'clock newscast. I'm Joseph Augusti, and thanks for tuning in. Heated exchange between protesters and counter-protesters are taking place across the country today over school policies on gender identity. Posters created by a group called 1 Million March for Children say rally participants are standing together against what they call gender ideology in the nation's schools. Here are sounds of the protests. Protests are linked to policies across the country, including in New Brunswick and Saskatchewan, that require young people to get parental consent before teachers can use their preferred first names and pronouns. But the rallies are met with counter-protesters who say those policies are a violation of children's rights and that transgender youth should not be outed by their parents by teachers. Mayor of Vancouver Ken Sim has released a statement regarding the anti-LGBTQ protests happening in the Lower Mainland. In a statement to social media platform X, Sim said, quote, "At Vancouver City Hall, we are proud of each and every one of our team members who are trans, gender diverse, or members of the queer community. Today, we are being confronted by ignorance and bigotry. We must always call it out and stand with those affected. We can never allow ourselves to let hate win the day. So to all 2S LGBTQ+, we see you and value you. You are important and we stand with you." End quote. A number of anti-SOGI protests are taking place across the country, including here in Vancouver. Sebastian Arancibia has more.
An anti-SOGI protest and a counter-protest will take place in downtown Vancouver. The so-called 1 Million March for Children is taking place in multiple cities across Canada. The group behind this protest advocates for the elimination of sexual orientation and gender identity curriculums in schools. Advocates and government officials have condemned this march as they consider it a hate-fueled demonstration. The anti-SOGI movement will congregate around 1 p.m. in the Art Gallery, whereas its counterpart will do it an hour earlier at the same location. At the moment, members of both sides are ready to install displaying banners and flags. Vancouver Police says it will deploy extra officers to the downtown area to ensure a peacefully assemble. Sebastian Arancibia, 1680 The Crow.
Now Sebastian joins us live. Sebastian, are you with us?
Yes, I can hear you, Joseph.
Okay. Sebastian, what do you see downtown? How is the atmosphere?
So right now I'm in front of the Art Gallery, and I can see hundreds of people gathering, and by the minute more and more people are gathering here. We just saw a group of teachers joining the counter-protest with LGBTQ flags. And I have to say, though, that the counter-protest is outnumbering the anti-SOGI protest right now. And we also have police presence. I will say around 20 police officers are surrounding the area.
Has there been any incidents?
So far, we haven't seen any physical aggression. We have seen people discussing very loudly from both sides. We have to remember this is the center of the city, so a lot of people pass by. We just saw a group of kindergartens passing by, and some of the protesters were screaming things like "read the Bible" and other things. So a lot of tension is building around this area because a lot of people are passing by.
Thanks a lot, Sebastian.
Thank you.
The son of slain Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar Balraj says that his father was well liked in the community. He mentioned that he was considered to be a real jolly person with an iconic laugh. The younger Singh remembers his father.
He was also always standing out against injustice. He was never scared for his life because he always believed that, we've come to Canada, we've escaped these injustices from India just so we can speak out that there's no need to worry, there's no need to be scared, we're not doing anything wrong.
BC Attorney General Nikki Sharma says the province will be taking every step it can to protect people in the community from violence if they're under threat. Premier David Eby says he needed more information from the federal government so the province could protect people at risk. But Sharma says she understands the delicate nature of the situation.
I respect the protections that need to be put in place around information during a time of investigation. But what I do know is that this province and all of us will participate in any way we can with this investigation to make sure we get to the truth.
Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller is urging everyone to stay calm after India issued a travel warning to students to use caution in Canada.
Let's be clear, Canada is a safe country and will remain a safe country. At the same time, emotions are running high, and we've asked everyone to stay calm.
Statistics Canada reported today that inflation jumped 4% last month, which makes it the second month in a row inflation has jumped. CIBC Director of Economics Andrew Grantham says the inclusion of slower grocery price increases in the report are some good news.
I do think that the rate of inflation for groceries will continue to decelerate. I'm just not sure if you're, the average Canadian, the average household, you don't want prices to just stop rising. You want them to kind of come down a little bit from these very high levels. I'm not sure that's going to happen anytime soon, unfortunately.
A sudden surge in coyote attacks in BC might be leaving residents asking about the best practices when encountering the carnivorous canines. Max Mashin has the story.
The BC Conservation Officer Service has reported 9 coyote attacks over the last week, with 6 occurring on last Thursday alone. Though there were no serious injuries, people did have to seek medical attention. One of the victims was an RCMP officer who was bitten in the parking lot of their detachment. The following, another similar attack in a nearby Walmart parking lot earlier that morning. Conservation officers are not sure if the Monday attacks were done by the same or different coyotes, but the City of Mission is urging residents not to feed or interact with wildlife. Max Mashman, 1680, The Crow.
Wildfire smoke has been a topic of discussion at the Vancouver Convention Centre. Health Minister Adrian Dix spoke on the matter. Our reporter Zach Clark has more.
BC Minister of Health Adrian Dix said British Columbians should learn to live with wildfire smoke. With wildfires getting worse and worse each year, the focus seems to be shifting away from prevention and more to damage mitigation. Armel Castellan, a meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, says that in a few decades' time, conditions now will look like a walk in the park. From coast to coast, this summer Canada experienced July temperatures in May, and if that trend continues, wildfire season could end up being months long every year. Evacuations remained a key topic at the convention too, as wildfire smoke forced thousands of evacuations this summer, including almost 1,000 seniors in care homes who need special care while evacuating. The conferences continue until September 22nd. Zach Clark, 1680 The Crow.
Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health says a team continues to sift through thousands of pieces of information tied to a massive E. coli breakout at Calgary daycares. Dr. Mark Joffe says they continue to try to find the source of the outbreak.
So the original outbreak in Calgary impacting 11 daycare sites were linked to a central kitchen, which you're referring to. That kitchen is closed indefinitely, and I can't really say anything more about that at this time, but it is closed indefinitely.
Actor Bijou Phillips has filed for divorce from disgraced actor Danny Masterson, days after Masterson was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison for 2 rape convictions. Phillips filed the divorce to the Santa Barbara Superior Court, petitioning to end her 12-year marriage. Masterson was convicted of raping 2 women who he knew from the Church of Scientology. A Humboldt Broncos bus crash survivor has won the 9th season of The Amazing Race Canada. Ex-Bronco Ty Smith and his girlfriend, Kat Kastner of Calgary, won the race, whose finale was recently aired. Smith and Kastner narrowly beat out Tyler Turner and Kayleen Vandery of Comox Valley. By winning the race, Smith and Kastner have won a $250,000 cash prize, a round-the-world trip, and 2 Chevrolet trucks. Vancouver Canucks defenseman Tucker Poolman will start the upcoming NHL season on long-term injured reserve as he continues to recover from migraines. Canucks general manager Patrick Allvin says Poolman will not be with the team when it opens training camp Thursday in Victoria. Poolman, 30, signed a 4-year, $10 million contract with the Canucks before the 2021-22 season. The migraine issue limited the American defenseman to 40 games in his first season with the Canucks. He attempted a return to action last season, but appeared in just 3 games prior to being sidelined again. Poolman has 6 goals and 17 assists over 168 career NHL games with Winnipeg and Vancouver. The Vancouver Whitecaps are back in action today as they play the Houston Dynamo in Houston. Head coach Vanni Sartini spoke about the increase of challenge from match to match.
It looks like we are in a video game, and every game is a different level. We need to. It's more difficult. So I'm Italian, so I'm thinking about Mario. So let's arrive at the princess at the end. That is the qualification to the playoff in the top 4.
The Caps are on a hot streak, having gone 4-1 on their long road trip. Kickoff is at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. The CFL's BC Lions have announced plans for their annual Orange Shirt Day. Their 3rd annual Orange Shirt Day will take place September 29th against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Players will wear special jerseys during the warm-ups, which will be raffled off in support of the Orange Shirt Society and Indigenous Residential School Survivors Society. The Lions will also be presenting a $20,000 check to the Orange Shirt Society and will be providing 750 free tickets to residential schools and their families. The Boston Bruins veteran Brad Marchand has been named captain of the team. Marchand, more known around the league as a skilled agitator, takes over from the retiring Patrice Bergeron. The Nova Scotia native spoke about the honor.
Hey guys, it's your captain speaking. I just want to thank everyone for your support. I am truly very honored, and I take a ton of pride in wearing this jersey and being part of this organization and team. We are very excited for this year to get going. Excited training camp's underway, but I just wanted to again thank everyone for your support, and hope you guys are excited about the year as I am. Looking forward to going through this journey with you guys. Take care.
He will be the 27th captain in Bruins history. More details have emerged about the man who died at a recent New England Patriots game.
I just saw a guy in a Dolphins jersey come over. He delivered 2 punches, and at that point, everybody kind of let go of the guy, and he fell back into his seat, and he unfortunately never woke up.
Dale Mooney of Newmarket, New Hampshire, was the victim of the assault, where he was taken to hospital and pronounced dead. It's going to be a bright and sunny day here in Burnaby with sunshine throughout the day. It's going to be a high of 18 degrees with temperatures hovering in that area for the afternoon. And that was your 12 o'clock newscast. I'm Joseph Augusti for 1680 The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
Fantasy football is one of the largest sports industries in all of North America and is only getting bigger. American football is the most popular sport in the United States, and football is a religion for its most die-hard fans, and fantasy football is their Bible. On our show today, myself and my co-host Madison Buckingham will be going over the fantasy football industry, doing a deep dive into its success in its past 60 years of existence.
The main question we want to ask is why? Why have football fans migrated away from their hometown teams in favor of the players they have on their fantasy teams?
We hope to provide answers to these questions and provide details not just about fantasy football, but how legalized gambling is affecting the industry.
Matt Marchese of Sportsnet is a fantasy football expert. Matt loves football and has been enrolled in 7 different fantasy leagues this season. Matt was kind enough to speak with us to tell us what he loves about fantasy football so much.
I mean, I love the camaraderie. I love the trash talking, especially in a couple of leagues that I've been in for a while. Like one league that I'm in, I think there's about 7 of us that are in. We've been there for 7 years, and like 7 of us, I think, have been there the entire time. And then we've had a couple of changeovers here or there. But like that to me, I got to know people that, I mean, I'm here in Toronto area, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, I believe, that live out in BC because, we had a mutual friend or whatever the case was. And then one of the other guys was in Trinidad, and then he's recently moved up to Toronto. So, I mean, I like that part of it because, listen, I've gotten to know people. I would call them friends, and I've never actually met them in person.
Some people are so invested in their fantasy teams that they cheer for them over their hometown clubs. We asked Matt where he stood on that issue.
Yeah, I would say that I know for some people it's really hard to keep separate, and my answer to that would be well, then, I'm not saying it's your own preference, but I would say that those people are not as diehard about, their teams as I am. When the Bills lose, I'm upset. When my fantasy teams lose, I'm upset. But I've got 7 of them. So one of them is bound to win and make me feel a little bit better. When the Bills lose, and that's it.
Now on to the gambling aspects. Gambling is now a huge part of the sporting landscape, with 34 American states, plus Washington, D.C., and 7 Canadian provinces allowing single-game sports betting in some form. Having your own sportsbook is a license to print money, and with so much money tied into gambling, it changes how much investment people have in athletes.
The fantasy football market is worth a total of $29 billion and is expected to grow up to $76.51 billion by the end of 2030. There are over 60 million people across the globe playing some form of fantasy sports. And to nobody's surprise, the largest and fastest growing fantasy leagues are the ones involving the NFL.
The NFL made nearly $12 billion in revenue during 2022 and is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Advertisers line up to get a piece of America's most prestigious league, with Super Bowl commercials costing over $7 million per 30-second commercial. With the COVID pandemic finally behind us, for the most part, sports leagues are trying to recoup as much money as they possibly can from heavy pandemic losses. One of the largest revenue drivers in the post-pandemic industry is legalized sports gambling. Spend any time watching sports and you'll be bombarded with betting ads and the constant betting segments during intermissions and halftimes.
Now that it's here, sports gambling is likely never going to go away, and regulation efforts are going to have to increase along with the supply of people betting on single game events.
Legalized gambling has also changed the way we consume our favorite teams and players, especially in regards to our fantasy teams. Now that many people have bets or parlays on specific events, there is more incentive to cheer for specific events during sports games. The casual fan has become more and more emotionally and monetarily involved during games. Many people have significant money tied into individual players, creating an immersive experience that leagues are cultivating.
I think more people are now watching football in Canada because they can bet on a single game. Whereas before, like here in Ontario, we have Proline, and I don't know what you guys have out west, but that was something that was very prominent for a long time. But you had to bet on a minimum of 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, or 2, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. So, people shied away from that. Well, I don't want to bet because I just want to bet on this one game because, my team's playing in it or this is my favorite player. Now that's completely changed the landscape. Now it's like I can bet on one game. I can bet on one single thing, catches, yards, whatever the case may be. So I think that part has totally changed not only how people watch football, but the types of people that are watching football too.
But with all that comes significant risk, with multiple NFL players having already been suspended for gambling. It is important to note that it is illegal for NFL players or employees to gamble on any sports.
Marchese spoke about the possibility that the sports world might endure another major gambling scandal like the Chicago White Sox did in 1919, where multiple players were banned for life.
I mean, there's always a possibility. I think it depends on the player, too. I believe they have, like some guys got suspended for 6 games. Ridley got suspended for a year. I think it all depends on the player, too. I think they're a little bit lenient with some more so than they are with others. At the end of the day, I don't care that players are, don't bet on your team to lose because that's not in the spirit of the thing. But, I mean, the NFL is also kind of ridiculous in how they do their suspensions because, we've seen guys get, 3 or 4 games for assaulting somebody, but laying a bet that doesn't involve your team and you get a year. I mean, or guys that smoke, like Josh Gordon, that smoked marijuana, that got suspended countless times for that. I don't know. To me, that's kind of it's a slippery slope to go down. It's kind of ridiculous. But do I think that you could see somebody get suspended forever? Sure. I would never rule anything out because it's the NFL. I lean more towards the side of I doubt it. It's more so a case of this guy got suspended indefinitely. He's not very good. So I'm not going to waste a roster spot on him because he's just not very good. So I think that's more of what you will see. Like a guy gets suspended and then he doesn't resurface because he's not good enough. Good players will find a place, just like Calvin Ridley did with Jacksonville after being suspended when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. Like that, to me, is something that will always happen in terms of that. Talent, generally speaking, finds a way, whether suspended or not.
Beyond the player's angle, the risks of gambling among the general population are very real. Gambling addiction is a major problem for a sizable part of society, and with the legalization of single-game betting, as well as the constant advertisements that have been taking over the industry, the risks of developing a gambling addiction have never been higher.
We also got the chance to talk to Dwayne Mason, an addictions counselor, who gave us strategies for overcoming a gambling problem.
There's different treatments for gambling. So one is sort of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is basically, you sit down and you make a plan about, how you're going to interact with gambling in your life. And then there's sort of a 12-step model, which would be sort of like AA, or in this case it'd be GA, Gambling Anonymous. As a place you can get help, and also there's actually pharmacological ways you can also address, pathological gambling.
The future of football is an interesting one, with more and more information coming out about concussions and their long-term impact. With all the new data upon the decline in quality of life after multiple concussions, futures football is at a crossroads. Enrollment in youth football is declining, with safety concerns being paramount. It may seem inconceivable to some that football may lose its spot on the top of the mountain in America, but basketball is catching up fast. Will fantasy football decline as well? I personally don't think so, as even though enrollment numbers are declining, the fantasy industry is booming. Maybe one day we will see a day where fantasy football is the number one sport and not the National Football League. This has been Joseph Augusti.
And I'm Madison Buckingham.
Signing off for 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon, I'm Riley Lung and you're tuning in at 1680 The Crow. It's currently 12:30 p.m. Starting off as demonstrators across Canada protest in favor of parental rights and counter-protesters staging their own rallies to promote LGBTQ rights. The Federal Minister for Women, Gender Equality and Youth says the safety of children is paramount. Marcy Len spoke to reporters on her way into the Liberals' cabinet meeting as hundreds of protesters rallied in front of Parliament Hill.
I say this from an empathetic level. I understand what it means to be a parent, a mom. I am one. But we're talking about the safety and well-being of kids.
Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller is urging everybody to stay calm after India set out a travel warning to students to exercise caution in Canada. This comes after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced there is credible information linking the Indian government to the death of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey, which India calls these claims absurd and motivated.
Let's be clear, Canada is a safe country and will remain a safe country. At the same time, emotions are running high and we've asked everyone to stay calm.
Wildfire smoke has been a topic of discussion at the Vancouver Convention Centre. Health Minister Adrian Dix spoke on the matter. Our reporter Zach Clark has more.
BC Minister of Health Adrian Dix said British Columbians should learn to live with wildfire smoke. With wildfires getting worse and worse each year, the focus seems to be shifting away from prevention and more to damage mitigation. Armel Castellan, a meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, says that in a few decades' time, conditions now will look like a walk in the park. From coast to coast, this summer Canada experienced July temperatures in May, and if that trend continues, wildfire season could end up being months long every year. Evacuations remained a key topic at the convention too, as wildfire smoke forced thousands of evacuations this summer, including almost 1,000 seniors in care homes who need special care while evacuating. The conferences continue until September 22nd. Zach Clark, 1680 The Crow.
A sudden surge in coyote attacks in BC might be leaving residents asking about the best practices when encountering these carnivorous canines. Max Mashman has the story.
The BC Conservation Officer Service has reported 9 coyote attacks over the last week, with 6 occurring on last Thursday alone. Though there were no serious injuries, people did have to seek medical attention. One of the victims was an RCMP officer who was bitten in the parking lot of their detachment. The following, another similar attack in a nearby Walmart parking lot earlier that morning. Conservation officers are not sure if the Monday attacks were done by the same or different coyotes, but the City of Mission is urging residents not to feed or interact with wildlife. Max Mashman, 1680, The Crow.
A number of anti-SOGI protests are taking place across the country, including here in Vancouver. Sebastian Arancibia has more on that.
An anti-SOGI protest and a counter-protest will take place in downtown Vancouver. The so-called 1 Million March for Children is taking place in multiple cities across Canada. The group behind this protest advocates for the elimination of sexual orientation and gender identity curriculums in schools. Advocates and government officials have condemned this march as they consider it a hate-fueled demonstration. The anti-SOGI movement will congregate around 1 p.m. in the Art Gallery, whereas its counterpart will do it an hour earlier at the same location. At the moment, members of both sides are ready to install displaying banners and flags. Vancouver Police says it will deploy extra officers to the downtown area to ensure a peacefully assemble. Sebastian Arancibia, 1680 The Crow.
Some popular authors are suing OpenAI for copyright infringement. Jason Nathanson from ABC News has the story.
OpenAI, the parent company of ChatGPT, has stoked the wrath of the father of dragons, Game of Thrones creator George R.R. Martin, and also John Grisham, Mary Bly, David Baldacci, and other best-selling authors. They're suing the AI company, saying their works were fed into the system to help it learn without their permission and without compensation. In the complaint, they say OpenAI evaded the Copyright Act, and this is a straightforward infringement case. They're seeking unspecified damages. So far, no response from OpenAI. Jason Nathanson, ABC News.
On to the weather. Metro Vancouver is forecast to have a nice sunny day today.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.